Machiavelli corrupted politics and shattered the foundations of morality. I will shield humanity from this monster of destruction. I have always considered The Prince one of the most dangerous books in the world. So wrote the future king of Prussia, Frederick the Great, in his Anti-Machiavelli. Yet, judging by his territorial conquest, he might have picked a thing or two from the immoral Italian. If Frederick's fiery condemnation doesn't make you curious about the prince, I don't know what will. Let's dive into Machiavelli's masterpiece and explore why it became a cornerstone of political thought, how it transformed the world's understanding of power, whether it's truly immoral, and how it's still relevant today, even if you don't plan on becoming a tyrant. Let's start with some context. Niccolò di Bernardo dei Machiavelli was born in 1469 into a small aristocratic family. His life would soon become inseparably tied to Florence, where the family moved shortly after his birth. Machiavelli received an excellent education, memorizing works by authors like Titus Livy and Cicero, and learning law basics under his father's guidance. Italy at the time was a patchwork of states, with Florence a republic in name only, dominated by the Medici family. However, their rule was unstable. In 1494, Piero the Unfortunate was ousted, followed by a brief religious dictatorship under Savonarola. From the ashes of this turmoil rose a true republic, and Machiavelli, at the young age of 29, became its second chancellor. For 14 years he thrived. He wrote, he negotiated, he even built a militia. But in 1512 his political career came to an abrupt end, with the Medici's return to power. Stripped of his position, Machiavelli faced persecution and retreated to a small countryside estate. There, with no job or income, he turned to writing. And it was during this time he penned The Prince, the work that secured his place in history. Dedicated to Lorenzo de' Medici, the book aimed to gain favor with the new ruler of Florence. Though Machiavelli presented it personally, the Medici reportedly paid more attention to hunting dogs than the manuscript. Undeterred, Machiavelli continued writing. His works included discourses on Livy, exploring his ideal republican government, chronicling Florence's history, and even trying his hand at plays and poetry. In 1527, the Medici were ousted again, and Machiavelli sought a return to politics. He ran for the Great Council but received only 22 votes in favor and 555 against. He died the same year, his republic fading shortly after. Florence, once a beacon of the Renaissance, never fully recovered. The Prince itself had a tumultuous fate. Published posthumously in 1532, it was later banned by the church. And yet here we are, centuries later, still grappling with its ideas. So let's dive in and see what this cunning mind has to offer. The Prince is essentially a ruler's handbook. Machiavelli skips lengthy theory, opting for clear, concise instructions, each illustrated with real-world examples. Think of it as a 16th century DIY guide to power. The book's 26 chapters vary in length. Some are brief, like the first, which categorizes states as either republics or monarchies. Monarchies are further divided into inherited and conquered. Machiavelli then outlines how to acquire them through force, yours or borrowed, fortune, or personal skill. The next 10 chapters delve deeper into types of states and how to acquire and maintain them. For hereditary monarchies, Machiavelli says the key is stability. For a prince of average powers to maintain himself in his state, unless he be deprived of it by some extraordinary and excessive force. If he should be so deprived of it, whenever anything sinister happens to the usurper, he will regain it. But there is a catch. Unless extraordinary vices causes him to be hated, one change always leads to another. Loosen your grip and that's it. Machiavelli describes a well-known formula according to which changes accumulate slowly but manifest themselves quickly. Machiavelli then discusses mixed principalities, where rulers add new territories. He notes this is often easy if the people resent their previous leaders, but warns that new rulers face disillusionment just as quickly, making lasting control a challenge. Machiavelli then offers advice on securing these new territories, advice that seems brutal. He recommends military colonies, essentially transplanting soldiers onto conquered lands. It's cheap and only harms the displaced. He even suggests men ought either to be well treated or crushed, advocating for crushing any potential for revenge. He cites the Romans as the model, highlighting their tactics of colonization, strategic alliances, and subjugation. Conquest, he argues, is natural and even admirable, but only for those with the strength to achieve it. Machiavelli then classifies monarchies by the ruler's power. In some, like the Ottoman Empire, the monarch is absolute. In others, like France, the nobility holds significant sway. Absolute monarchies, he claims, are difficult to conquer, but easily controlled once ruler is removed. Conversely, while deposing a less powerful king is easier, managing a rebellious nobility is not. Later chapters explore gaining power through crime and civil power, where citizens willingly offer someone to rule. These are fascinating topics, but we'll leave them for your own exploration. For now, let's turn to Machiavelli's advice on military matters. Machiavelli dedicates chapters 12 to 14 to warfare, but not in the traditional sense. He bypasses tactics and strategy, covered in his other work, The Art of War, focusing instead on the political and organizational aspects. He starts with a bold claim: good laws and a strong army are the foundations of any state. He then promptly sidesteps the issue of laws, perhaps surprisingly for a lawyer and politician, stating that a strong army naturally leads to good laws. Machiavelli then outlines 4 types of military power. First are mercenaries, common in 16th century Europe. This was a period of transition in warfare, from medieval knights to modern recruit-based armies. Rulers heavily relied on mercenaries, a practice Machiavelli condemns. He criticized them as fickle, treacherous, and motivated solely by money. His core argument in The Prince is that a ruler should control all aspects of their power. Mercenaries, therefore, are unreliable. He extends this logic to auxiliary forces, troops borrowed from allies, deeming them even worse. They'll not only drain your resources, but also pose a potential threat. The solution? Build your own army, composed of your citizens. He points to the Swiss, renowned for their freedom and military prowess, and his beloved examples of Rome and Sparta. He dismisses the fourth option, a mixed force of citizen troops, mercenaries, and allies, as ineffective. From chapter 15 onwards, Machiavelli shifts focus to the ruler's personal qualities. In modern terms, this section is about PR, image making, and team building. Machiavelli argues that all rulers are judged by their traits, some praised, others condemned. It's tempting to strive for only good traits: generosity, mercy, sincerity, and piety. However, he warns against this idealism. For if everything is considered carefully, it will be found that something which looks like virtue, if followed, would be his ruin. At least something else which looks like vice yet followed brings him security and prosperity. In short, virtues can be dangerous if taken too seriously, while vices, if used strategically, can secure success. This philosophy emphasizing appearance over reality is why Machiavellianism became synonymous with cunning and hypocrisy. Machiavelli then analyzes various character traits. He favors stinginess over generosity, arguing that true generosity lies in not burdening subjects with excessive taxes. He also prioritizes fear over love, believing love is fickle and conditional, while fear, rooted in the threat of punishment, ensures obedience. However, he cautions against inspiring hatred, which, along with contempt, is the most dangerous sentiment a ruler can face. This stems from his cynical view of human nature. He concludes that keeping promises is often unwise, and trusting others is even more foolish. He stresses the importance of advisors who speak their mind, even if it's critical. A ruler should listen, then decide independently. Once a decision is made, unwavering commitment is key. He criticized Emperor Maximilian for his secretive decision-making, which led to backtracking and undermined his authority. Ultimately, Machiavelli believes success depends on balance. Avoid hatred, maintain control, and win the people's favor. As he concludes, the best fortress is to be found in the love of the people. For although you may have fortresses, they will not save you if you are hated by the people. But what role does luck play in all of this? The ancients believed deeply in fate and its inescapable power. A prime example is the Greek tragedy of King Oedipus. According to this prophecy, Oedipus would kill his father and marry his mother. In an attempt to prevent this, his father ordered the baby's death. Yet Oedipus survived, unaware of his origin, and the prophecy ultimately came true. In the Middle Ages, fatalism persisted. Christianity upheld free will, but concepts like providence led people to place their trust in God's will, seeing human plans as insignificant by comparison. Machiavelli challenges this perspective. As a humanist, he emphasizes human agency and the capacity to shape the world. Fortune is the arbiter of one half of your actions, but that just still leaves us to direct the other half, or perhaps a little less. He explores this in chapter 6, analyzing the rise and fall of Cesare Borgia. Borgia, a cunning and ambitious leader, owed his initial success to his father, Pope Alexander VI. But when fortune turned, he lost everything. Machiavelli compares fate to a raging river, capable of immense destruction. However, he argues that with proper defenses, even floods can be contained. Similarly, by anticipating and preparing for challenges, rulers can mitigate fate's impact. This belief in resisting fate underscores Machiavelli's worldview. People are unreliable, circumstances even more so. To hold power is to embrace risk. Disaster is unavoidable, but the wise ruler chooses the lesser evil. This leads to his controversial stance on deception. He asserts, since people are evil and will not keep their word to you, you have no reason to keep your word to them. He essentially advocates mirroring the behaviors of others, even if it means resorting to unsavory tactics. Seems like tit-for-tat strategy from the game theory. If you want to know more about how to apply that to politics, don't forget to leave us a comment about it. This raises a timeless political dilemma. Do the ends justify the means? Machiavelli leaves us grappling with this question, highlighting the complexities and moral ambiguities inherent in leadership. Machiavelli's advice, as we've seen, is far from moral by conventional standards. Lie, kill, manipulate, break promises. use any means necessary as long as they are effective. He argues that a ruler must know how to fight, either using the laws like a man or brute force like an animal. Ideally, both. He references Achilles, raised by the centaur Chiron, as a symbol of mastering both approaches. So does this make Machiavelli himself immoral? Congratulations, you've stepped into one of the oldest and most complex debates about Machiavelli, a question that defies unanimous resolution. One perspective, championed by Leo Strauss, condemns Machiavelli for corrupting politics and promoting tyranny. In Thoughts on Machiavelli, Strauss not only criticizes the Italian thinker, but also accuses those who defend him of being infected by his teachings, or viewing politics as inherently devoid of morality. Strauss advocates returning to the ideals of antiquity, where values form the foundation of political life. Others defend Machiavelli. Some claim the prince's satire, a Trojan horse designed to undermine the Medici. They point to passages where Machiavelli seemingly encourages actions that would destabilize their rule. Other defenders, those Strauss criticizes, argue that Machiavelli's seemingly immoral advice is a reflection of his era and the harsh realities of political life. They contend that politics, by its nature, cannot function without some degree of evil. Machiavelli himself seemed to acknowledge this tension in a striking passage. For a man who wishes to act entirely up to his professions of virtue soon meets with what destroys him, among so much that is evil. Hence, it is necessary for a prince wishing to hold his own to know how to do wrong, and to make use of it or not according to necessity. This leaves us with an enduring question. Can a politician remain entirely moral and still succeed? And if not, where is the line? When do ends truly justify the means? Interest in Machiavelli has endured for over 5 centuries, and it seems to only grow stronger. The Prince consistently ranks among the top books on politics, features prominently in university reading lists, and captivates readers eager to understand the mechanisms of power. But what makes Machiavelli so compelling? One key reason is his focus on human nature, on individual ambitions and actions. The central figures in his works are not abstract states, but actual leaders, princes. This emphasis on the individual makes his ideas timeless. Political systems may change, but human nature remains constant. Moreover, many of his insights extend beyond politics into the realm of business, though applying them often requires careful nuance. Machiavelli is far from a straightforward thinker. Engaging with his work invites debate, particularly about the relevance of his principles in modern politics. Can Machiavelli corrupt someone? Perhaps, but deceit and violence in politics existed long before his time. By honestly revealing the harsh realities of power and the methods it demands, one could argue that Machiavelli demonstrated a form of moral clarity that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. Ultimately, politics cannot exist without values and principles. Yet it cannot afford naivety in a complex and often ruthless world. Striving for a better future requires a clear-eyed understanding of how the real world operates, as Machiavelli himself put it. My intention to write a thing which shall be useful to him who apprehends it. It appears to me more appropriate to follow up the real truth of the matter than the imagination of it. For many have pictured republics and principalities which in fact have never been known or seen, because how one lives is so far distant from how we ought to live. Don't forget to share in the comments below your thoughts on this timeless book. Is his honesty too extreme, or totally understandable. See you soon.